Welcome into today's Devo. Today we're going to talk about Proverbs chapter 30, verses 21 through 33. We're going to talk about things that shake the earth, like when life gets flipped upside down and why that is, and where we can draw wisdom from, and actually how we can adopt more self-control and more humility. I'll see you in the video.
Welcome to the Equipped Disciple channel. My name is Rick McClatchy. I will be your host. We are here to be and to make disciples of Jesus, and we do that through daily devos, through Sunday sermons, and through other discipleship resources. We are here to equip you.
All right, here we are jumping into Proverbs chapter 30, verses 21 through 33. I'm Pastor Rick, and I'm super glad you're here. We're going to talk today about what shakes the earth, some things that kind of seem a little flipped upside down, a little out of place. We're going to talk about them and why they are that way, maybe some lessons we can learn from these things. And so we're going to jump right in. So kind of the things we're going to look at today are these. What shakes the world? Wisdom in unexpected places, strength with dignity, and a call to self-control. Yikes. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and what shakes the world. Let's look at those verses 21 through 23. The earth trembles under three things that cannot bear up under four. A servant when he becomes king, a fool when he is stuffed with food, and an unloved woman when she marries, and a servant girl when she ousts her queen. So what do some of these things kind of have in common? Well, a servant when he becomes king, sometimes that can be a good thing, right? If you have served and you then translate that serving into a proper leadership mentality where you lead as a servant. However, if you take someone that has been, pressed down for a long time in a servant position and then suddenly make them a king, then there can be a really big problem because they're in a position that they didn't earn. They're in a situation that they're not quite prepared for. And so that can really turn things on its head, right? As a person that doesn't have the proper preparation for where they are in their office, and they don't handle the authority or the influence effectively, correctly, or in a healthy way. An example of this could obviously be in today's culture of kind of our celebrity influencer type of culture, is you get somebody that posts a great video or has one great thought or whatever, and they get kind of famous, or they sing one really good song and they are kind of a one-hit wonder, but they get really famous as a result of it. And then people suddenly start giving them influence in their life, credence to what they're saying. And it's like, do they deserve to have that influence in your life? Have they shown or proven to you that they are actually somebody worth following? So that's really the big thing that we're talking about here. Even a fool when he is stuffed with food is, how is a fool stuffed with food, right? Because he's being foolish and he's not doing the things he needs to do in order to make money, to get the things that he needs, even to be stuffed. Then he's stuffing himself with food, right? So there may be some gluttony kind of stuff going on there. So the way that he is utilizing the resources that have been given to him is foolish, consistent with who he is and what he has been known for. And then an unloved woman when she marries, and a servant girl when she ousts her queen, right? So one is probably some manipulation going on there, all kinds of crazy stuff happening in order for that servant girl to be moved to the queen, the office of the queen, if you will. And again, just the what that reveals about a person's character and how they would then wield the power that they have in their new position. So these are all things that are upside down, backwards, kind of crazy, things that we don't want to see. And so moving right along to the next one is wisdom in unexpected places and lessons we can learn from them. So 4 things on the earth are small, and yet they are extremely wise. Ants are not strong people, and yet they store up food in the summer. And then hyraxes are not mighty people, and yet they make their homes in the cliffs. And then locusts have no king, and yet all of them march in ranks. And lizards can be caught in your hands, and yet live in kings' palaces. And so just going back to the ant, they store up their food in the summertime. They plan ahead. they're prudent. They, obviously I think ants are kind of functioning just based on instinct, right? It's what their brain tells them to do. We, on the other hand, a lot of times know the right thing to do, and yet we don't do it because we think ourselves out of it, or we decide to be lazy. We try to decide to be like the sluggard that's going back and forth on his bed like a door on its hinges, right? We talked a lot about that in the whole book of Proverbs. Hyrax is kind of a funny animal, kind of look like a gopher kind of an animal. And man, there's some pretty funny videos online of watching them eat food just because the way they chew their food is pretty hilarious. So go check it out. But they're not mighty, but they make their homes in the cliffs. Like they have some primo real estate, right? Because they know how to climb the rocks. They know how to make their homes there in their little caves and such. Good old Hyraxes. When's the last time you heard somebody talk about a Hyrax? Locusts have no king, and yet they all march in ranks because they recognize their place. They recognize where they're supposed to be for the function that supports the greater good. I think that's such a really powerful concept, picture, whatever, for the local church, that the local church needs to flow together in that kind of way, that we all find our place and we all do what is called upon each of us to do. That way we don't put too much weight and pressure on the one, the pastor, the leader, whatever. But we also don't discount each other, and we don't think too highly of ourselves, and we also don't think too lowly of ourselves. I think there's a trap you can fall into either direction. Thinking too highly of yourself, you got a lot of pride going on, and you start treating other people terrible, and it's no good. On the other hand, if you're thinking about yourself too lowly, like you have nothing to offer and nothing you can bring to the table, then you step back and you step away from it and you don't fulfill what God has called you to fulfill. That's also a big negative, right? That's not good, because Ephesians chapter 4 tells us that when the whole body, every member, finds their place and does their thing, that the whole body is built up together in love. And so we all need to find our individual places. So then there's the lizard that can be caught in your hands, and yet it's in king's palaces. It's like they're easy to catch and yet pop up when you least expect it. So let's jump into the next one. Strength with dignity. And we'll go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. 3 things are stately in their stride, and 4 are stately in their walk. A lion with its might, which is mightiest among beasts, doesn't retreat before anything. A strutting rooster, a goat, and a king at the head of his army. And I think that in all of these, especially the king and the lion, but I'll talk mostly about the king. The king is confident at the front of his army, not because of who he is, but because of what's behind him, what supports him, and what makes him great. Well, a good, healthy king will think that way anyways, to recognize that you are not great in and of yourself, but you are great because of who you are leading and who you represent. And so these things are stately in their stride and stately in their walk. And so there's influence and there's wisdom there. The lion, he understands his place. He's mightiest among the beasts and doesn't retreat before anything. Man, as Christians, Jesus said that he has given us, he was given all authority, and then he is giving it to us, delegating it to us, the church. And so we need to make sure that we are like the lion and that we are not retreating before anything, because we don't need to retreat when we are serving the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the maker of heaven and earth. He is our God, and he has given us that authority. And so I just want to encourage you to recognize that you are, if you're a leader, especially, that you are in your place because of the people that you are leading and supporting. Those are the people that make you great, because they're the ones that are doing the work that makes you be able to stand before the enemy without having any fear. And you being a lion, it's not because you did anything, right? To take that place as mightiest among beasts, It's because of the family that you are born into. You were born into a lion family, as a lion, and Jesus has adopted us into his family, given us his name. And so we have his authority, we have his strength, we have his power, and that is pretty incredible. All right, so those are some great verses. And then 32 through 33, the call to self-control. If you have been foolish by exalting yourself, or if you've been scheming, put your hand over your mouth. For the churning of milk produces butter, the twisting of a nose draws blood, and stirring up anger produces strife. Whew. I've always thought the picture of the the twisting of a nose draws blood. Ugh, it just youch. I've had some good bloody noses in my life, and I don't recommend it. It's not fun. And so the churning of milk produces butter. That is a guarantee. This twisting of your nose will produce blood. That is, it's like a guarantee. And stirring up anger produces strife. So just watch out on what you're doing, that you're not unintentionally or intentionally, stirring up anger that drives strife in situations and then causes more dissension and more problems. And if you've been doing it by being foolish, by exalting yourself, or you've been over, scheming and stuff, I just recognize that those things lead to problems, to traps, to death, because how many times have we read through the book of Proverbs in these devos where it says that, the one that schemes, the one that lays the trap, falls into the trap himself. And so there's this justice thing that God has worked out, that it's going to come back on you. And so don't do it. All right. So with that, just a big hearty God bless you. We wrapped up Proverbs chapter 30. We got one or two more devos in the book, and then we're going to move on to the book of Hebrews. So I hope you're excited about that. So like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video. If you're getting value out of these videos, if you could just make sure you hit the like button, maybe subscribe to the channel. YouTube is suggesting a video right about here for you to check out. So go ahead and check out the next video. God bless you. Have a great day. Thanks for being a part.